My family skipped my birthday dinner and lied. I saw photos of them at my favorite restaurant, the one I suggested. I texted, "Save me some rice pudding." Then I cut them off financially. 1 month later, my sister, mom, and brother-in-law started threatening me to pay their mortgage, bills, and car after everything fell apart. My name is Ivan. I'm 28 years old, and I live in Tacoma, Washington. I work as a logistics analyst for a freight company near the port, which sounds more impressive than it feels. Most days, I just stare at spreadsheets and shipping manifests until my brain goes numb. But that's not what this story is about. This story is about how I became a walking wallet for the people who were supposed to be my family. It started small, after my dad passed away unexpectedly when I was 23. Heart failure. One minute he was watching a Seahawks game, the next he was on the living room floor. Just like that, the axis of my family tilted. Mom, Daria, spiraled after his death. She started talking about how tired she felt all the time, how work was too much, how she just didn't have the energy anymore. She said it like a fact, not a question. Like quitting her receptionist job was inevitable. My doctor says it might be chronic fatigue, she'd say, like that excused everything. Then came Nina, my older sister. She had always been a little directionless, but after Dad died, she clung to Mom like they were a unit, and I was some cousin crashing on the couch. Nina and her husband Emil moved in with her, bringing along their 2 toddlers and a list of needs that only seemed to grow. They needed help with the mortgage, then the power bill, then daycare, then the car insurance. I didn't remember agreeing to any of it, but somehow my name ended up on the accounts. Quietly, automatically. I told myself I was keeping the peace. I had no kids, no mortgage of my own, no real reason to say no. I'd just gotten promoted around that time, so the money was there, barely. At first, they said thank you. But gratitude wears off. After about a year, there were no more polite texts. Just expectations. If the water bill didn't clear on the 5th, I'd get a passive-aggressive message from Emil. "Hey, just making sure the payment went through. Kids need baths tonight." Like I was the damn utility company. I started sending monthly family care transfers, Nina's term, not mine. The phrase made it sound noble, like I was donating to some worthy cause. But all it did was keep the engine running while everyone else pretended they weren't passengers. 5 years. That's how long I played the part. I wasn't a son anymore. Not really. I wasn't a brother either. I was the guy who made the townhouse possible. The guy who paid for the new roof. The guy who replaced the furnace without getting so much as a thank you dinner. Sometimes I'd try to talk about it, hint at needing to cut back. Daria would sigh dramatically. Nina would say, "We're doing our best, Ivan." And Emil, he'd just nod like he understood, then ask for help with a new set of tires a week later. It became normal. The kind of normal that wears you down until you forget what fairness ever felt like. Until the idea of keeping something for yourself feels selfish. Until you stop being family and start being the bank. I don't usually make a big deal about my birthday. It's not that I hate getting older, it's just never been a thing in my family. But that year, I thought maybe we could do something different. Something small. Something for me. I brought it up in the family group chat about 2 weeks in advance. "Hey, thinking of doing a Korean barbecue night for my birthday. That place near the mall with the all-you-can-eat pork belly. I'll cover the tab." I waited. Daria was the first to reply. "Oh, sweetheart, you know my blood pressure's been acting up. That food might be too salty for me." A few minutes later, Nina chimed in. "Emil just picked up an extra shift that night. Total fluke. Otherwise, we'd be there." No one suggested another night. No one asked if we could do something earlier. It was just shut down. I remember rereading their messages, feeling stupid for suggesting it. I told myself I was being dramatic. I even made peace with it by midweek. I'd pick up some takeout, maybe grab a beer, enjoy a quiet night. Not ideal, but whatever. On the day itself, I worked late, skipped lunch, and brought home a microwave chicken wrap from the office fridge. Around 7, I plopped onto the couch, forked at the wilted salad, and laughed to myself. Not like a real laugh, more like that bitter kind that spills out when you've run out of ways to explain things. Then I made the mistake of opening Instagram. There it was. A picture posted an hour ago, bright and clear and impossible to misread. Nina, Emil, Daria, even Emil's sister, who I'd met exactly once, all crowded around a grill at the Korean barbecue place I had suggested. The caption read, "Family night. Love our little tribe #FamilFirst #Unity. Unity." They were laughing, holding up glasses of soju like they were toasting something bigger than themselves. There was a second picture too, one that kicked harder than the first. It was a dessert, sitting at the center of their table. A square glass bowl filled with caramel rice pudding, my favorite. A single candle stood crooked in the middle, melting slowly. The caption was even worse this time. "Couldn't resist a little something sweet tonight." That was supposed to be mine. I sat back and let the silence stretch. No anger. No yelling. Just this cold awareness settling over everything. Like I'd been watching the house burn from the inside, and now the flames were finally visible. They had lied. Not forgotten. Not flaked. Lied. And I had paid for half of what they were eating with the money I sent 2 days ago to cover this month's shortfall. I didn't text them. I didn't call. I just took a long breath, opened my notes app, and typed 3 words. Cut them off. Because if this was what family looked like, deceit with a smile and a candle I never got to blow out, then I was done pretending I belonged to it. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm. Didn't need coffee. Didn't need a shower. I just sat there on the edge of my bed, staring at the floor, letting the silence press in. I wasn't angry anymore. Not really. Something colder had taken its place. Something heavier and clearer. It felt like setting down a weight I didn't realize I'd been carrying. By the time the sun rose over the neighbor's roof, I was already at my laptop. First stop, the bank. I logged into the mortgage account and canceled the autopay. I deleted the saved payment method and removed my name from the backup notifications. That townhouse could fend for itself now. Next, I pulled up the utility dashboard. Gas, water, electricity, each one had been charging to my card for the last 5 years. I turned them all off. I didn't even pause. Then I scrolled to the recurring Zelle transfers I'd been sending Nina. Every month, like clockwork. Family care, groceries /etc. $800. Gone with 2 taps. I moved to my credit account and found Emil's delivery van lease. I'd financed it under his name as a favor, just until they got back on their feet. Funny how that favor turned into 2 years of silence and unpaid gratitude. I stopped the payment plan and flagged the account. He could explain the repossession himself. The last thing I did was open the group chat. I hadn't said a word in it since my birthday suggestion 2 weeks ago. But now, I typed exactly 10 words. The pork belly looks amazing. Save me some rice pudding. Then I hit send and muted the chat. That night, I didn't rage. I didn't cry. I didn't drink or scream or punch walls. I just made myself a plate of eggs and rice, sat down at the kitchen table, and let the quiet fold around me like a blanket. No one texted back. No one called. It didn't feel like power. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like surgery. Precise. Sterile. Necessary. Like I was removing something infected before it could spread any deeper. I knew what was coming. I wasn't stupid. They'd panic when the bills bounced. Emil would realize the van wasn't his after all. Nina would scream, and Daria would cry, and they'd all try to spin it into guilt, turn me into the villain of the story they'd already rewritten. But I was ready for it. For once, I was 10 steps ahead. I closed the laptop, rinsed my dish, and went to bed. As I lay down, I thought of that pudding, the stupid candle, the way they smiled while pretending I didn't exist. And I whispered the last thing I knew they'd never believe. Never again. It didn't take long. 3 days into the month, my phone rang just after 9 a.m. Nina. I let it ring twice before I picked up. Hey, she said, too casually. So, just a heads up, the mortgage didn't go through. I think the autopay glitched. I leaned back in my chair. No glitch. I canceled it. Silence. Then a nervous laugh. Wait, what? Why would you do that? I didn't forget, Nina, I said flatly. It's just not mine anymore. She didn't respond at first. I could hear her breathing shift. Then came the real tone, the one she used when she couldn't believe I wasn't falling in line. You're seriously doing this? Over a birthday dinner? There it was. Don't insult both of us by pretending that's what this is about, I said. So what, then? She snapped. You're punishing us? Punishing my kids because we didn't show up for your little dinner. I stayed quiet. She kept going. You're talking about a roof over their heads. Real life. Not your feelings. I wanted to feel something, anger, shame, regret. But I didn't. Her voice sounded distant, like a neighbor yelling through the wall. Tell Emil to cover the mortgage, I said. Or you can sell the house. You've got options. Wow, she muttered. You've really changed, Ivan. I almost laughed. No, Nina. I stopped pretending. She hung up. 10 minutes later, Daria called. The first thing I heard was sniffling. Ivan, sweetheart. I don't understand what's going on. I said nothing. You're scaring me, she whispered. The lights, they're sending shut-off notices. What's happening? You're not tired enough to call the utility company? I asked. She gasped like I'd slapped her. Don't talk to me like that. I'm your mother. Were you my mother when you let them lie to my face on my birthday? I asked. Or when you laughed at that dinner while I sat alone eating leftovers? I wasn't laughing, she said, suddenly sharp. You know how Emil is. He made a joke, that's all. And I didn't even want to go out that night. My blood pressure was spiking. But they begged me. I saw the pictures, Mom. You looked fine. She switched tactics immediately. Do you think your father would be proud of you? Acting this cold. I felt my jaw tighten. Dad would have been ashamed, I said. But not of me. Of how you all use me. She started crying for real then. The performative kind, wet, gasping sobs meant to pierce through whatever walls I built. But it bounced off. I hope you never have a child who treats you like this, she said, her voice breaking. I hope I never make them feel like I'm only good for money, I replied. I hung up. That afternoon, Emil texted. No greetings. No pretense. Emil, if the van gets repoed, I'm coming to your work and we're gonna talk. You owe me that much. I didn't respond. Emil, you think you're untouchable? I got time. Let's see what happens when you can't hide behind screens. I blocked his number. That night, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Just a screenshot of my LinkedIn profile and the words, "Hope the company knows how cold you are." I forwarded it to HR. Because here's the thing, I had waited years for them to show their true selves. And now that they were, I wasn't afraid. I was done being quiet, done buying peace with a debit card. Let them rage. Let them panic. The silence I gave them now wasn't punishment. It was clarity. And I didn't owe them anything, not anymore. By the end of that week, I knew I couldn't just ride this out. They weren't going to take the hint. They weren't going to let it die. So I did what I always do. I made a plan. First stop, HR. I knocked on the open door to Claire's office, our HR lead. She looked up from her laptop, eyebrows raised. Got a second? I asked. She waved me in, and I shut the door behind me. I didn't dance around it. My family might try to show up here, I said. Things are messy. She blinked. Like, show up how? Physically, I said. Maybe yelling. Maybe trying to get me pulled into drama. I sat across from her and laid it out, briefly but clearly. The years of financial support. The abrupt stop. The threats. The guilt trips. The possibility that Emil might try something desperate, or worse, stupid. I showed her the text about the van. The screenshot of my LinkedIn profile that someone had messaged anonymously. To her credit, Claire didn't flinch. She nodded slowly, then opened a blank document. Okay, she said. Let's log this. 10 minutes later, I'd forwarded every message, every screenshot, every voicemail. She logged them, labeled them, and added them to a folder under potential threat escalation. Her words, not mine. Then she called our building security. By lunchtime, I was sitting with Ray, the security supervisor. I gave him a folder of printed photos, Daria, Nina, Emil. I didn't want drama. I just wanted a line drawn. If any of them shows up, you don't let them in, I said. You call me, then you call the police. They don't get past the lobby. Ray nodded like this was standard procedure. Which, apparently, it was. People think family won't cross the line, he said. They always do. That night, I got a call from Aunt Tamara. Now, Tamara isn't part of the usual loop. She's my mom's older sister, retired nurse, the type who always says exactly what's on her mind. She'd moved to Oregon a few years ago and mostly stayed out of the mess. So when she called, I was already bracing for the worst. But her voice was calm. No theatrics. No guilt. Ivan, she said, I just got off the phone with your mother. I didn't say anything. She told me some version of events that made you sound like a monster, Tamara continued. So I asked questions. Then I asked for screenshots. She got mad. Hung up. I exhaled. You called because I wanted to hear your side, she said. And because I saw that Instagram post. The birthday one. I didn't reply. After a beat, she said quietly, you did the right thing. That was all. No lecture. No pep talk. Just the truth. After we hung up, I sat on the couch, phone still in my hand. I opened my streaming app out of habit, and that's when I saw it. A new charge on the old family bundle I'd set up 2 years ago for the kids' shows. They were still using my login. I went into the settings, disconnected all devices, and deleted the account. Then I changed the password for everything, banking, Netflix, Spotify, even the grocery app one hadn't touched since I sent Nina that coupon code last Christmas. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about removing the last hooks they had in my life. By the time I went to bed, every tie that could be cut was gone. And for the first time, I wasn't just surviving the fallout. I was ready for the fight. It was a Wednesday morning when Emil showed up. I just pulled into the office garage, still half asleep, iced coffee in one hand, when I saw him standing by the elevator. But up, arms crossed, pacing. My stomach dropped. I didn't get out of the car right away. I just sat there and watched him from behind the windshield, heart thudding. He didn't look unhinged, just twitchy, unshaven, like a man losing sleep and looking for someone to blame. I hit the lock button, pulled out my phone, and texted Ray. Me, he's here. 3 minutes later, security rolled up in a golf cart like a suburban SWAT team. Ray stepped out, calm as ever. They didn't yell, didn't touch him, just escorted him out like he was a lost tourist. I watched through the windshield as Emil resisted just enough to make a point. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but I didn't have to. The way he pointed toward my car. The way his mouth moved fast, aggressive, desperate. Later that day, Ray came to my desk. We issued him a formal trespass notice, he said. If he comes back, we call the cops. I nodded. Thanks. That night, I found a cream-colored envelope shoved under my apartment door. No postage. Just my name in block letters. Inside was a cease and desist letter. The logo on the header looked like it was made in Microsoft Word, and the legal firm didn't even have a website. It accused me of violating a verbal contract of familial support and inflicting undue financial harm on a dependent household. I stared at it for a full minute before I laughed out loud. A verbal contract? I took a picture of the letter and sent it to a woman named Jen, my company's outside counsel. We weren't close, but she'd once helped me out with a tenant dispute, and I knew she had a mean streak when someone deserved it. She replied an hour later, "Come by my office tomorrow. Let's nuke them." And she did. The next day, she drafted a brutal response. Legal citations, precedent, liability threats. It was surgical. She even tossed in a warning about continued harassment of our client in both digital and physical spaces and mentioned potential restraining orders. I sent the letter. They didn't respond. The silence was deafening. But the real damage was just beginning. By the end of the week, I got an alert from the credit monitoring service I'd forgotten I even had. Emil's delivery van was marked for repossession. Delinquent payments. Closed account. Vehicle flagged. Then a second alert. Foreclosure notice filed on the townhouse. 30 days to resolve or vacate. I didn't celebrate. Didn't pour a drink or dance around my apartment. I just read the alerts, nodded, and closed the tabs. A few days later, I saw Nina post a vague, sad quote on her story. Rock bottom teaches you lessons the top never could. There were no photos of the kids. No meal prep shots. No family brunch. Just a muted Instagram silence. Emil deleted his account entirely. They were unraveling. And for the first time, the fallout wasn't mine to clean up. They had bet everything on the idea that I'd always come through. That I'd fold when it got uncomfortable. That they could lie, exploit, and guilt trip without consequence. But I'd stopped playing their game. And without me, their whole house of cards finally collapsed. It was Aunt Tamara who told me what finally happened. She called on a Monday evening, her voice unusually quiet. No preamble. They're in a motel now, she said. I didn't say anything. Just waited. Your mom's staying with that cousin in Spokane, she continued. Nina's at a roadside place off I-5. You know the one near the old gas station? 2 stars. No fridge. They're all squeezed into one room. I pictured it. Emil sleeping in his hoodie on the edge of a sagging queen bed. The kids trying to do homework under a flickering lamp. Nina staring at a microwave burrito, wondering where it all went wrong. She took a graveyard shift at some diner near the highway, Tamara added. Told me it's just temporary. I could hear the air quotes in her voice. And Emil? I asked. Tamara exhaled. He's not working. Can't. No van. No license. Got pulled for expired tags trying to deliver some mattress by bus. That almost made me laugh. Almost. But then she paused. She blames you, you know, Tamara said carefully. They all do. I figured. She told me you destroyed the family. There was a silence between us then. Not hostile, just heavy. And for once, I didn't try to defend myself. Didn't try to explain. I let it sit. Later that night, I got a message. Not through my personal number, not even through my email. It came through an old work line we barely used anymore. A text. No name, but I knew the voice behind it. You destroyed the family. I hope you sleep well. No punctuation. Just bitterness, pure and raw. I sat with it for a minute. Then I replied. No. You destroyed it when a free dessert meant more than my dignity. You weren't a family. You were a subscription. I just hit cancel. I stared at the screen for a long time after sending it. No response ever came. That should have been the end of it. But there was one thing I couldn't shake. The kids. They hadn't asked for any of this. They didn't lie. They didn't manipulate. They just existed in the wreckage, same way I had when I was their age. So I opened a new account at a credit union under a trust structure. Ironclad. Watertight. Their names only. No parental access. No withdrawal until they turned 18. I seeded it with a chunk of savings I had planned to use for a new car. Added a small recurring deposit, enough to grow, not enough to spoil. I didn't tell anyone, not even Tamara. It wasn't about being the hero. I wasn't looking for redemption. It was just a promise to 2 kids I barely knew anymore. You don't have to repeat this cycle. That night, I went for a walk. The streets were quiet. Spring was just starting to creep in. Wet grass, chilly wind, the faint scent of rain on asphalt. I didn't feel proud or triumphant. I just felt still. Everything was broken, but for the first time, it wasn't me. I had protected myself. I had chosen peace. And I'd left the door open for the only innocent still trapped in the fire. It wasn't a happy ending. Not yet. But it was an honest one. And that was more than I ever thought I'd get. It's been 3 months since everything came crashing down. 3 months without calls from Nina asking for a little help to get through the week. 3 months without Daria's guilt-tripped sighs about how tired she is. 3 months of silence. The peace is strange. Not unpleasant. Just unfamiliar. Like moving into a clean apartment after living in a house filled with clutter you didn't notice until it was gone. Most nights, I come home to quiet. I cook what I want. I read. I sleep like I used to before adulthood became a job title and a bank account. I've started jogging again. Nothing ambitious, just slow laps around the park a few blocks away. My legs hate me for it, but my mind doesn't. Sometimes, when I pass the bakery on 6th Street, I think about that stupid dessert. The caramel rice pudding with the single candle. I never got to blow it out. But the joke's on them. That candle still lit something, just not the way they intended. Lately, I've been planning something for myself. A solo trip to Greece. I've wanted to go since college. The white buildings, the water, the food, the kind of air you only breathe when you're surrounded by history instead of unpaid bills and family guilt. I'd always put it off because it felt selfish, because someone always needed something more than I needed rest. But this time, no one's getting in the way. I booked the ticket last week. Window seat. No return date set yet. I haven't told anyone. There's a kind of ache in the freedom. Like amputating something infected. It saves your life, but it still leaves a scar. Some nights, I still wonder what they say about me now. If Nina blames me for the kids' motel room. If Daria plays the victim at every cousin's brunch. If Emil's still stewing in silence, convinced I owed him something. But then I remind myself, I didn't destroy the family. I just stopped sponsoring it. The version of family they built around me, it wasn't real. It was me dressed up as love. Obligation masquerading as connection. I was never seen, only used. They loved the function of me, not the person. Now, I get to choose who gets access. And I choose me. I've started budgeting for things I'd always considered luxuries. Therapy, nicer furniture, real weekend getaways. My apartment feels more like home. There's no more mail from other people's banks. No auto-pay reminders for other people's lives. One morning last week, I looked in the mirror and realized something. I don't flinch when my phone rings anymore. I didn't get cake on my birthday, but I got something better. Boundaries, quiet, breath, and, finally, my own damn life back.